All right, so we're going to continue talking about factoring today. Last time we talked about how to factor a trinomial whose leading coefficient was a 1. Now we're going to talk about what to do when that leading coefficient is something different than 1. It involves a little bit more thinking on our part. Right, so again, we're still talking about factoring trinomials, so we got to be able to do that, and we're going to add some more trinomials that we should be able to factor by the time we're done. Okay. Quick reminder on factoring when your leading coefficient is a 1. So leading coefficient is always this guy in the front, right? It's the first coefficient in a polynomial when it's in standard form. Okay? So, steps for factoring. And the good news here is even when we have a leading coefficient of something other than 1, the steps don't change. We always look for a GCF first, or greatest common factor. You look at these three terms. The only greatest common factor here is a 1, but factoring out a 1 doesn't change anything, so we're not going to worry about it. So then we draw our parentheses. We factor the first term into x and x. Now we need factors of the last term. So factors of 12 would be 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. And of course the negatives, negative 1, negative 12, negative 6, negative 2, negative 3, and negative 4. But here's the thing. We're looking for factors now that will add to 13, positive 13. Two negative numbers cannot possibly add to a positive 13, so we don't have to worry about these negative factors. Just these positive ones, right? And so that's the next deal, right? I mean, before we were supposed to draw smiles, and the smiles didn't make as much sense now as they will in just a minute, but those smiles are supposed to add to 13 when you multiply those smiles out. What this means is that we're going to just basically take each factor and multiply it by x and then add it together to get 13. In other words, I need factors that will add to 13. 1 and 12 are those factors, and so I just put a plus 1 and a plus 12 in here. And we're done. Okay. Number 2, we're looking for a GCF. And actually, there's not a GCF here for these three terms either. But we also need this to be a quadratic. Right? A quadratic means that the degree of the polynomial is a degree 2. And right now, the degree is 3. Remember, the degree of the polynomial is always the same as the highest degreed monomial. So here's a 3. So this guy right here is prime. Okay, we can't factor it down. 2 more here. Number 3, again, we would go looking for a GCF, but the only greatest common factor is a 1, so we're not going to worry about factoring that out. So the factor of the first term, x and x. Now we need factors of negative 56. We can go negative 1 and 56, negative 56 and 1. Negative 2 and 28, negative 28 and 2. We can go 3, 4 won't do it. Let's see, 3 won't do it. Well, 4 will go into it. So we can go negative 4 and 14, negative 14 and 4. 5 won't go, 6 won't go, but we could do 7 and 8. So negative 7 and 8 or negative 8 and 7. Now, again, smiles don't make a lot of sense. They'll make more sense in a second. But we're basically looking for factors that will add to positive 10. Those won't, those won't, those won't, those won't. Ooh, those will. So negative 4 and 14 are the 2 factors that we need. And for right now, it does not matter where we put them. So negative 4 and positive 14. Number 4. Actually, there is a GCF. We can factor out a 4, but a 4 only. So divide all these guys by 4 and get x to the third minus 7x squared minus 18. But because this is, again, a cubic and not a quadratic, we can't factor down anymore. So we don't call it prime because we've actually factored it down some, but we don't do any more than that. Okay? All right, so we're still factoring. So we're still doing the same thing. look for a GCF first, make your parentheses, list your factors of the first term, factors of the last term, and then draw your smiles. And the smiles are going to make more sense here. And again, the smiles are just us multiplying the outers and the inners when we FOIL. And they have to add to that middle term. They're the ones that give us our like terms. Okay? All right. So let's go through the process. Number 5, GCF, greatest common factor. There's actually not one here, other than 1. So we go and make our parentheses, factor down the first term. So 2 will factor into 2 and 1. X squared will factor into x and x. So we go 2x here and an x here. Factor down the last term. So we go negative 3 and 1, negative 1 and 3. Now draw smiles because, again, those smiles have to be multiplied together, and we're going to put factors into here and here. But what factors in where depend on these smiles. These smiles tell us that we have to multiply one of our factors by a 2, so 2x. And then add the other one, because we're multiplying the other one by 1x. So multiply one factor by 2, and add the other one, and then get positive 5. Okay? So, we start just trying them. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5. That does not work. Negative 3, let's see, 2 times 1 is 2, plus negative 3 is negative 1. That does not work. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 plus 3 is 1. That does not work. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus negative 1 is positive 5. That's it. These are the factors, and I've got to multiply the 3 by the 2. So that means that the 3 has to go on the other end of the smile with the 2x. So plus 3 goes here, minus 1 goes here. And then we're done. So a bit more thought. Okay? Make any sense? Let's talk about another one here. Number 6. Looking for a GCF. There's not one that we can factor out. So we make our parentheses and we factor down the first term. 3 factors into 3 and 1. And then x squared factors into x and x. So we go 3x and x. Okay. Now we factor down the last term. So we go negative 2 and 1, negative 1 and 2. Now, draw your smiles. Your smiles say that we've got to multiply one factor by 3 and add the other one to get negative 5. So we just start trying. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5. Look at that. It's the very first one I tried. Man, I love it when that happens because now I know that I'm going to link the 3 and the negative 2. So the 3 is right here. That means the negative 2 has to come over here at the other end of the smile. And then I'm going to put a plus 1 here. And we're done. Okay? Only one of these combinations will work. And so that's the one we use. And we got to link the numbers that we have to multiply together. Okay? All right. Number 7. 7, if you look, definitely has the greatest common factor. We can factor out sorry about that. We can factor out a 3, and they each have at least one x, so we can go 3x. So you're going to divide all these guys by 3x and get 2x squared plus 9x minus 5 and get that guy there. So bring down this 3x. Now we're going to make our parentheses. We're going to factor down the first term into 2x and x. And now we need factors of negative 5. So 5 and negative 1, negative 1 and 5. And our smiles tell us that one of the factors get multiplied by 2, and then we're going to add the other one, and we want that to add up to positive 9. So we go 2 times 5, which is 10. 10 plus negative 1 is positive 9. So that's the pair that we want. It's the combination that we want. So we got to pair up the 2 and the 5. So there's 2. At the other end of the smile, we got to put a plus 5, because those are the ones we want to multiply together. Make this a minus 1, and I think we're done. Okay. All right. You ready to try some on your own? See how you do? Okay. Try this guy, number 8. Stop the video and then start it back up to see if you're getting it. Okay. Looking for a GCF. Not a GCF to factor out. So we make our parentheses. We factor the first term into 2x and x, and now we need factors of 6. 6 and 1, 3 and 2. We could go negative 6 and negative 1, and negative 3 and negative 2, but we're going to have to add to a positive number, and there's no way 2 negative numbers will do that. So I'm not going to worry about the negatives. I am going to draw my smiles, which tell me that I have to multiply one factor by 2, add the other one, and get 7. Well, 2 times 6 is going to be 12. 12 plus 1 is 13, not going to work. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 plus 6 is 8, not going to work. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 plus 2 is 8, not going to work. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. That's the combo I need. I need to link the 2's. So on the other end of this smile with the 2x, I'm going to put a plus 2. Make this a plus 3. And we are finished. If I were to FOIL this back out, I will get that trinomial right there. That's what we're doing. We're breaking this down into 2 things that will multiply together to give the original problem. Okay? All right. Apologize again. Try number 9. Again, stop the video, start it back up, and see if you're doing it correctly. Okay, not a GCF that we can factor out. So we make our parentheses, factor the first term into 3x and x, factor that last term. We could go negative 6, 1, negative 1, 6, negative 3, 2, negative 2, 3. Now, our smiles tell us that one of the factors is going to get multiplied by 3, add the other one, and we're supposed to get positive 7. So, 3 times 6 is negative 18 plus 1 is way too big. 3 times 1 is 3 plus negative 6 is negative 3, not going to work. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3 plus 6 is 3, not going to work. 3 times 6 is 18, too big, not going to work. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. Negative 9 plus 2 is actually negative 7, so still not going to work. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus negative 3 is positive 1, not going to work. Now we go 2 times negative 2, which is negative 4. Negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1, so not going to work. And then we go 2 times 3, which is 6. 6 plus negative 2 is 4, so not going to work. Oh, wait a minute. I'm multiplying by a 2. Dang it. I needed to pay more attention. At some point I started multiplying by 2. Why didn't somebody say something? I don't know. Anyway, so go back and multiply by a 3. Sorry, we are supposed to be multiplying by a 3. So if we try to do 3 times 6, it's negative 18. Negative 18 plus 1 is too big. 3 times 1 is 3 plus negative 6 is negative 3. Doesn't work. We keep trying these. It turns out that we have to go 3 times 3, which is 9, plus negative 2, which is 7. And so that's going to work. We need to link our 3's. So at the under end of the 3x smile, I put the other 3. This is minus 2. And we are done. Okay? Hopefully this is starting to make some sense. Okay, try 10. I won't talk through them anymore. These are just more ways for you to practice and start checking your answer. So try 10, start the video back up and see if you've got it right. If this is still not making any sense by the time you finish these problems, make sure you come see me during STAR. Okay. Okay, you should come up with 2x plus 3 and x minus 4, because when you multiply negative 4 times 2, you get negative 8. Negative 8 plus 3 is negative 5. That's the combination that works out for you. And when you link your smiles, the 2 and the negative 4 should get linked together. Okay? Here's 11. Try that one, stop the video, start it back up, and check your answer. All right, so you should get 5x minus 2 and x minus 5. So your factors of positive 10 need to add to negative 27 by the time you're done multiplying by 5. Well, obviously positives aren't going to do that. Two positives can't add to a negative, so I ignored those. Turns out that if you multiply negative 5 times 5, you get negative 25 plus negative 2 is negative 27. So we had to link the 5 and the negative 5 and then put the negative 2 in the other parentheses. Okay, here's 12. Try it, stop the video, start it back up, and see if you're right. Okay, should have 3x plus 2 and x plus 9. If you notice, I didn't even list the negative factors of positive 18, the negative pairs, because two negatives will not add to a positive. So I needed to multiply one of them by a 3, one of your factors by a 3, add the other one and get 9. 9 times 3 is 27, plus 2 is 29. Boom, there they are. Okay. 13. Just a little reminder to make sure you're always looking for a GCF. So factor this guy out completely, start the video, and check your work. Okay, tricky one here. The trinomial actually will not factor. Okay. Factor out a 6x for the GCF, you get 2x squared minus x plus 3, but we're looking for factors of positive 3 that when you multiply them together, multiply one of them by 2 and add the other one, you get negative 1, and that's not going to happen. So we don't call it prime because it actually did factor with the GCF. We just do not continue. That's as far as we can go. And that happens sometimes. It's okay. Okay? Try 14. Okay, so you should have factored out an 8x first. That's your GCF. Gotten 2x squared plus 11x squared. Sorry. 2x squared plus 11x minus 6. Okay, then make your parentheses. First term factors into 2x and x. Last term can factor into negative 6 and 1, 6 and negative 1, negative 3 and 2, 3 and negative 2. Draw your smiles, which means we have to multiply one factor by 2, add the other one, and get positive 11. And that happens if you multiply the 6 by 2 to get 12. 12 plus negative 1 is positive 11. And so there you go. Link the 6 and the 2, and then put the negative 1 in the other parentheses, and we're done. One more. Okay, try this guy. See how you do. Again, if you're not getting this, make sure you come in and see me during STAR. Okay, no GCF to factor out that's worth anything. So make our parentheses, factor the first term into 3x and x. All those factors of negative 18 are listed. And you just start trying because you have to multiply one factor by 3, add the other one, and get negative 25. And that happens if you do 3 times 9 and get 27. Sorry, 3 times negative 9 and get negative 27. Add 2, you get negative 25. So that's it. Okay. Homework's out in Canvas. Come see me if you have any questions.